In science, the development of an experiment depends on examining the relationship between a selected pair of dependent and independent variables. The major focus of an experiment should be on its dependent variables, since they will ultimately be used in analysis and interpretation. The distinction arises from the fact that the dependent variable's characteristics rely on the independent variable. As the independent variable is being altered, it will demonstrate how the dependent variable responds to the shift. The dependent variable remains significant independently, regardless of the other factors at play, while changes in the independent variable affect its value. The independent variable is the one that a scientist can change to observe the experiment's effects. The observed result is the dependent variable. In other words, the dependent variable is sensitive to shifts in the independent variable. Responses to death, funerals, and other forms of loss can vary widely from one person or group to the next, even among those who have experienced similar tragedies. When contemplating how a person is grieving, it is important to consider the factors that exist today that may not have existed in the past time of severe loss. One variable of interest in grief counseling is ventilation. Discord between the need to appear strong and the belief that one is weak is a common internal struggle. When a grieving person can verbalize their emotions and thoughts to a sympathetic listener, they are more likely to accept their validity. This variable would be essential to this institution because bereaved individuals will be encouraged to communicate openly and with someone who can offer proper support and guide them through the entire grieving process as part of grief counseling. The most significant source of comfort for a grieving person is the presence of someone who cares. The variable will help students in every step of grieving, as it includes encouragement and comfort, which are the school's goals for every student. Convincing someone that everything will turn out okay is only sometimes helpful. Instead, presence necessitates bearing witness to and even feeling for that suffering. This conveys to the bereaved that their anguish is valid, their grief is understandable and normal, and that they are not going through mental breakdown. The second variable is empathetic support. Those who have suffered a loss must find ways to communicate their complex and frequently conflicting emotions and reactions. The grieving counselor must remain neutral and receptive to all feelings. One of the essential demands of grief is to avoid thinking about the loss, while another is to talk about it in depth, even to repeat a story. Students can get help through empathetic support and have someone to always talk to. The realization of our thoughts come from many different parts of ourselves is a helpful idea, especially when the emotions experienced by one part of ourselves may appear to be at odds with the emotions experienced by another part. It is common to experience conflicting emotions when dealing with a complicated problem or a significant other. It is a common mistake to treat individuals as if they only feel one emotion and that any other feelings they experience are just defenses or masks. It is a mistake to think one's personality as a seamless whole. More and more data points to the reality of a nuanced, adaptable understanding of the human experience. If I were in the new aspirational position of being a grief counselor, I would conceptualize, operationalize, and measure the variables by reconciling the pieces of the grief world as it is an act that aids in the healing process. I would also use integration to describe the process of bringing together different aspects of a person's psychological and social experience, such as the desire to rebuild the relationship by rejecting its end and the need to face one's feelings of grief and isolation.